And guess what? They responded, and you won't believe what they're saying.
Yeah, we've lost some talk.
Hi and welcome to Flossom Talk. I'm Shashti Floor, journalist, Hollywood truth teller, and your voice of reason in a town built on delusion. First of all, thank you so much for all your kind words yesterday. I announced that finally Blake Lively's team has admitted that I had nothing to do with that alleged smear campaign. So as I said yesterday, I reached out to the New York Times and said, hey, maybe you should apologize to me because you insinuated so strongly in that article you published in December last year that I was collaborating with Baldoni's team. And guess what? They responded, and you won't believe what they're saying. Also, Blake Lively has been out and about, and People magazine shared a video from her latest outing yesterday, and you won't believe what people are saying. And we have to talk about Brandon Sklenar again. Now it seems like he's turning his back on Blake, and Blake has already responded. This is so manipulative. And also, there is some big news today from the legal perspective here. The trial has been postponed for 2 months. So now the trial date is May 18th of next year. It was supposed to be, I think it was March 9th. That was the original one. And the judge has now postponed it. I'll tell you why shortly. Stephanie Jones is out there again. She has now responded again to Jennifer Abel. All these publicists, the drama between the publicists. I'll talk shortly about that as well. This is getting so ridiculous. And I'm going to show you this video that someone sent me with Jenny Slate and what she did in front of an audience of 800 people. Okay, so let's get into it. So this morning there was a hearing and the judge, Judge Lyman, told Blake Lively's team and Baldoni's team that he has to postpone the trial because he is so busy. He has 2 other trials and they are criminal cases and he has to put them first. So that's why we have to wait another 2 months. It's very normal that cases get postponed, so I don't think it means anything. It's just that we have to wait longer, which is really annoying. But the way things are now, when more and more evidence is getting unsealed, I think we are going to get to the truth, to the whole truth, before that even happens. And as you know, the judge has to also rule on the motion for summary judgment. Will he throw this case out or will he keep parts of it? That's going to be really, really exciting as well. Okay, as I said in the beginning of this video, New York Times got back to me. So yesterday I reached out to them and I said, hey, Blake Lively's team now admits that I had nothing to do with the smear campaign, that I posted that video that went viral when she was being a bully. On my own accord, I had no one reaching out to me. I never had any communication with either of the teams or anyone involved in this lawsuit. And I thought, and I said in my episode yesterday, I think they're not even going to respond to me. But guess what they actually did is the deputy editor for Trust, Mike Abrams, who reached out to me the last time as well when I complained to them saying, hey, why did you put me in your story? I had nothing to do with it. And then they added a statement from me saying that I had nothing to do with it, which really doesn't have any weight. It's like, oh, she's just defending herself. Anyway, so yesterday I wrote an email to them again saying that I request a correction or clarification appended to the article stating that there is no evidence I participated in any coordinated effort. So they had to add in the article that there's no evidence of what they're actually saying here or insinuating. Or I suggested that removal or revision of language that implies alignment with an alleged smear campaign. So this is how Mike responded. He says, we don't believe the legal filings undercut anything we said in our story. As you know, we revised the piece to include your comments after publication. Well, that was 24 hours too late. As a result, the story was clear that A, we did not know how much of the anti-Lively sentiment online was prompted by the Baldoni people and how much was, as in your case, organic. And B, you had no interaction with the Baldoni representatives. Just before the paragraph about you, we write, It is impossible to know how much of the negative publicity was seeded by Miss Nathan, Mr. Wallace, and their team, and how much they noticed and amplified. Then he's saying, then after the paragraph we say, and then they put my statement in there. And then he's ending this email saying, we believe that those statements dispel any possible implication that you were coordinating with Baldoni's team. Well, as I thought, they will not correct this article because, as you know, New York Times has now also sued the Wayfair parties because they want them to pay for their legal fees that they spend defending themselves against them. Because, you know, Baldoni countersued Blake Lively and the New York Times for defamation, and that lawsuit was tossed out, and now New York Times wants Baldoni and the Wayfair parties to pay for their legal fees. And here's the catch. If they would admit that they did not check their sources right and they printed false information in that article, that would really weaken their case against the Wayfair parties. So, of course, they're not going to admit to any wrongdoings. I wasn't expecting that because that's the way things work. This is how they can get away with anything today. Because if you are vague in the way you're describing something, you can always work your way around that legally. And that's also why they're always using this kind of vague language and say allegedly. And then they can get away with things like this without it having any consequences for the reporters who actually reported on this and definitely didn't do their job as a journalist. So the New York Times is claiming that they just reported on legal papers that was given to them because she filed this lawsuit. They also claim that they had access to thousands of text messages, meaning that they themselves probably cherry-picked the ones that fit their narrative. But apart from all of that, you have to remember I was a non-party here. And that's why they should have reached out to me. And that is something I think to this day that they really regret not doing. So now they're basically saying that, hey, we can get away with this because we use those words. And now we are saying, like you said at the end here, that those statements dispel any possible implication that you were coordinating with Baldoni's team. So yes, why am I still in your article? That's my question. If you now know that I had nothing to do with any of this, why am I still there? I was the perfect pawn to be used to fit the narrative that Blake served them, and they just went for the bait. And I think that's just so embarrassing for them, and they know it. Okay, so let's get to Brandon Sklenar. I guess at this point, everyone knows who he is. He was the one playing Atlas in It Ends With Us. And he, as you know, if you follow this case, was really supportive of Blake from the beginning. And he was also one of the cast members who unfollowed Justin Baldoni on Instagram. And we've read and we've seen Justin's text messages that he was really surprised by that because he thought that Brandon and him were really good friends. Anyways, so as I reported on last week, E! Online did this story. They had an interview with Paul Feig. He is the director of The Housemaid, a new movie coming out this month with Brandon Sklenar, Sydney Sweeney, and Amanda Seyfried. And in this interview, Paul Feig said that Blake Lively was the one who helped Brandon Sklenar get this part. He said that Blake kept pushing for him to meet with Brandon, and she said he's the most wonderful guy. She praised him so much that Paul Feig decided to have lunch with Brandon. And when he met him for lunch, she said that he completely fell in love with him and he decided to cast him for his next movie. So now Brandon Sklenar has been out talking about promoting this movie. And a few days ago, he was on NBC Today show. In this show, he was asked about how he got the role. And it seemed like the host was already prepped for that question because he's the one who brought this up, saying that Sydney Sweeney was the one who pushed for Brandon to get this part.
I said that Sydney really pushed for you to be hired for this role.
Yeah.
Did you guys know each other?
No, we did not. No, I was surprised, honestly, that she did that. Yeah, I was like, me? Really? All right. playing a cowboy 100 years ago, and I've never done a white collar contemporary man. But yeah, I was honored and thrilled that she saw that I could potentially do that, and producers were on board, and Paul Feig was on board, and I had lunch with Paul Feig actually, and we just we hit it off big time. And
okay, so the story has changed here. And also, for the rest of this interview, Blake Lively is not mentioned once. So it's so obvious to me that Brandon Sklenar wants nothing to do with Blake Lively anymore. And he does not want to be associated with her. So funny thing, after this interview on NBC Today show was aired, People magazine comes out with an article. This is so planted by Blake's team. It's got Blake and Ryan all over it. And this is a reminder to Brandon, hey, remember who got you there. You better be on our side here. So then People Magazine publishes basically the same story as E! Online 5 days later. And they're saying here that how Blake Lively helped Brandon Sklenar land the housemaid role, according to director Paul Feig. And here they're quoting Paul saying, she just kept going on and on about how great he is. And I met him and I was like, yes, you're great. And I love you, said director Paul Feig. So they point out here that Blake worked with him on Another Simple Favor in 2018 and the sequel earlier this year, Another Simple Favor. And Paul is saying here, Blake had just worked with Brandon on It Ends With Us, and she was still in the middle of shooting all that stuff when we were doing Simple Favor. They were doing reshoots, and she was like, I'm working with this guy, and he's so amazing. You got to meet Brandon. So this means that Blake was pushing for Brandon while they were shooting It Ends With Us. I was like, all right, I'll have lunch with Brandon. He walks in, and within 30 seconds, I'm like jelly. The most charismatic guy you've ever met in your life, and so talented, says Paul Feig. As you know, Paul was very supportive of Blake when he was promoting Another Simple Favor because she got so much backlash during the promotion of that movie. And he said he loves working with her. I think he's the only person on the planet who actually loves working with Blake. But I do find this so telling on how Blake now is working the media to get all her pawns in the right place and reminding people like, hey, I saw that you said Sydney Sweeney got you this part, but remember, you promised me you'll be backing me up here because I got you this part. Talking about Blake's pawns here, as you know, Jenny Slate has also been out there supporting Blake, and she's one of her witnesses, as I've spoken a lot about the last couple of weeks. Jenny Slate also accused Justin of being inappropriate to her by saying that her leather pants that her character was actually wearing were sexy. Then someone sent me this today. Thank you, GH, for sending me this video. So this is a video of Jenny Slate when she was on her book tour in October of 2024. So this was after the premiere of It Ends With Us. And she entered the stage like this. Yes, as GH was telling me in this email, saying that Jenny Slate walks on stage and then lifts up her dress and leans over, revealing her bright red undergarments to an audience of about 800 people. I mean, when you do stuff like that in front of an audience of 800 people and you find that appropriate, but you can't handle a man saying that your wardrobe, your pants are sexy. That to me is going to look awful in front of a jury when they're showing all of this. And as I showed you before, when she was promoting It Ends With Us, she also posted a video of herself in a totally see-through dress with her butt to the camera, shaking her butt in front of everyone. And it's just like, that's fine if you want to do that. I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that then it doesn't make really much sense that you got offended when someone calls your pants sexy. Okay, so let's get quickly into Stephanie Jones' new filing here. You know, she filed for motions for sanctions, meaning that she wants to punish Jennifer Abel for basically destroying evidence on purpose. That's what this is all about. If you follow this case, you know who she is. If you didn't follow it so closely, so Stephanie Jones is the owner of Jones Work, a PR company, and one of her employees, Jennifer Abel, left her company. And when she did that, Stephanie Jones, through Blake and Ryan's company, subpoenaed Jennifer Abel's phone, took it, gave it to Blake and Ryan, who gave it to the New York Times, who published her text messages. And as we know, there's also a lawsuit going on between Stephanie Jones and Jennifer Abel. So Jennifer Abel is, of course, accusing Stephanie Jones of stealing her phone and sharing her private information, which is really serious. And then Stephanie Jones is accusing Jennifer Abel of working on her own behind her back, running a smear campaign, and that she had no idea that this was going on. And now she's saying that she knows for sure that the evidence of what she's accusing Jennifer Abel of, destroying evidence, were in the signal messages that she deleted on purpose. So she's using exactly the same textbook as Blake Lively, saying all the evidence is invisible and you destroyed it, and that's why you have to pay me money because I think you should get punished for that. I find it so ironic that she's accusing Jennifer Abel of exploitation of evidence here, while she's the one who helped Blake steal her phone and take all the content. And they never gave the phone back. So Jennifer Abel lost her phone with all the information she had stored on her phone. And Blake and Ryan and New York Times, everyone had free access to all her personal information. And they still do because they still have the phone. And then she thinks that Jennifer Abel is the one that was unethical here. It's so dumb. And as we now know, there is no evidence. If there was any evidence that Blake could have used against any of these people, and the same with Stephanie Jones, it would have been out there by now, and we haven't seen anything. So of course, they are desperate. Also, there was a story the other day, an interview with Robin Lively, Blake Lively's sister, her only supporter at this point, I think. And she said she's not sure if she's going to spend Christmas with her sister. It says here in People magazine, surprise, surprise, Robin Lively says holiday plans with sister Blake and Ryan Reynolds are currently up in the air. Robin spoke with People at the iHeartRadio Jingle Ball on Friday. Actress Robin Lively says she's not yet sure if she'll be spending the holidays with her younger sister and brother-in-law. Oh my gosh, we never know our plans. But when we do, it's like we're up and out, like, come now, let's go, Robin said before sharing that they spend a lot of time with Blake and her family throughout the years. They, Blake and Ryan, love Christmas. We all love Christmas so much, Bart 54 added. I guess that's why Blake decided to ruin everyone's Christmas last year, because it's so important to her. That's why she filed her lawsuit on December 21st. So no one had the chance to respond until after New Year, because the court is closed for over a week. So that meant that Justin could not defend himself until the court opened again. And she knew that she would make his Christmas and all the other defendants' Christmas miserable, and including my Christmas miserable, because last Christmas for me was awful. As I talked about yesterday, I received so much hate from people, and so many people online were attacking me for being a liar because I had smeared Blake Lively according to the New York Times. Anyways, I don't care what any of these people do for Christmas, but please just don't ruin it for anyone else this year again, which I'm sure she'll be able to do somehow. Anyway, that's it for me, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks again for all your support yesterday. It's so sweet of you to reach out like that, and I'm really happy that it's out there now, that I had nothing to do with this alleged smear campaign, and even Blake Lively had to admit that in the end. And yes, please subscribe if you haven't, hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of Blossom Talk, and I'll see you soon. Bye!
Cause they Blossom Talk. It's Blossom Talk, not just sugarcoat show. Say what we mean and we mean what we know. Yeah, we've lost some talk.